All right, guys, welcome to Church Brand Guide. My name is Michael Persad, and today we are going to be looking at a case study with Vibrant Church and Pastor Brandon. So Pastor Brandon's on the call with us today, and he's going to be able to share with us some key insights and help us understand maybe some of the things that are happening at Vibrant Church and the growth process that's taking place there. We are a young church. I'm actually a part of the church as well. I moved my family down here about 8 months ago now to help start Vibrant Church. And we're about 4 months in. Pastor Brandon will give us a little bit of the background of that. But we're going to jump into that conversation here in just a moment. But before we do, let me just set up what we do here at Church Brand Guide and make sure that we're all on the same page. So let me find my slide deck here. Usually I like to provide some slides so that we're all on the same page. We're able to see some visual presentations of what we're talking about today. So let me find that slide deck, and here we go. So this is Church Brand Guide, where I serve you as a virtual communications director. Ultimately, I want to help you to turn strangers into contributors so that you're saying yes to the right things and seeing more guests more guests come and more life change taking place. We also want to help you get more support for the vision that God has given you. We just believe that when we do this right, that people are going to come and they're going to want to be a part of what's going on. There's really 4 areas that we cover. It's really simple. If you want to build a great brand, first you have to get clear, then you have to create the experience, then you have to attract people, and then finally you got to get buy-in. Once people come, you have to get them to buy in. So we're going to go through this a little bit more in depth today with Vibrant Church as we take a look at each of these areas and how we've been doing this in South Florida. I want to give you a tip real quick before we jump in. I've been learning how to do this. I've been doing it for years, but still learning how to lead creatives. So creatives are kind of a different group of people. It's kind of, it's hard to get them corralled. And one of the things I found, though, is if you make your team a small group, so if you have a small group culture in your church where you maybe meet outside of weekend services, I have found recently that by treating it as a small group, my mentality has shifted. I'm not looking at it as a kind of a transactional thing with my team where it's like, hey, can you get this done, and get this done? It's more of a, hey, how's it going? Let's do this together. It's been really helpful to view the creative team and that ministry as a small group to help me really care for them as well as ask them to do the things that we need them to do. Because it's really easy in this area just to be transactional. It's like, hey, we got to get this done, and it's a struggle to keep that on a relational side. One resource I want to share with you, and Pastor Brandon is our guest today, so kind of in honor of Pastor Brandon, we're sharing with you the Open Church Network. So open.church. This is a great tool that we have been using at Vibrant Church to help us as a young church so that we're not having to create everything from scratch. So it's one of the things I really appreciate about what Brandon is doing is he's trying to help us win. So as a leader, as a pastor, he's not requiring that everything has to be original. And in fact, for the first year, it's, hey, how can we leverage what's already out there and use that to our advantage? So we're focusing more on growing the church versus having to create things from scratch. That'll come eventually, and that'll be fun when it does. But for right now, Open.Church is a great resource. We even use our kids ministry out of this this network, and it's all free. And they have some amazing tools, church metrics, and these are the same guys that created the Bible app. So check them out if you don't know about them already, and it'll be a great resource for you. So let's jump into our topic today. Church, we're talking about Vibrant Church and just kind of a case study with branding and marketing and how that's gone so far as we've been building a brand here in South Florida. So Pastor Brandon, welcome. You can probably unmute your mic there so that you can speak into it. Welcome.
Hey guys, how's everybody doing? It's a privilege to be here with you guys. I recognize some faces there. Pastor Stanley, good to see you, my friend.
Yeah. So Brandon, why don't you give us a quick update on Vibrant Church and like what's going on?
Yeah, so I'm going to give a real brief synopsis of what we did. We are what we call a parachute plant. So we moved to a city where within 20-minute driving range of the school that we meet at, we moved here about a year ago. We didn't know a single person when we moved. which is a little intimidating. I remember sitting across the table from my wife and just said, hey, if we say yes to what God's called us to do, we're going to move to a city where we don't know anyone, with money we don't have and a team we don't have, to plant a church in a city that doesn't want another church. And that's what we did. And we followed the ARC model. There was lots of models out there. ARC is the one that we resonated with the most, simply because they're a small group driven playbook where they're trying to get people into community, where discipleship happens best when people know your name and they know your story. And they recognize that small groups are the best environments to disciple people, as well as raise up leaders who might work a 9-to-5 job, but are really great at leading people in growing in their faith. So we started that journey. And like all of you, my story is I'm the only staff member of Vibrant. I've got a team of volunteers. We don't call them volunteers. I actually don't like the word volunteer because of what I think it communicates. I think that they're just using their gifts to accomplish kingdom purposes. And I think it's their ministry and it's their calling, if you will, outside of the jobs that they carry. So in my world, we think from how do we get someone that has never heard of us before to fully integrated on what we call our dream team, serving on a team, and the process of how do we let people in our community know that we're even here. Because what I've learned, even with all the marketing that we've done, no one still knows that we're here. Like there's a group of people that do, and there's a whole lot more people that don't even know that we even exist as a church. How do we get someone who's never heard of us to go to our website or Facebook page, learn about us, see us enough times and have enough stories communicated, they might consider coming to a first-time visit. And from a first-time visit, how do we create an experience for them that would make them want to come back, as well as a follow-up system from them that would cause them to feel valued and known and seen, and help them along the lines of going from a first-time guest to coming back a second time. And on our Sunday morning experience, our hope is that we send them to what we call our growth track, which is just an assimilation class. I'm getting connected into the church. And from the assimilation class, we really point them to places. We point them to our connect groups or small groups, and we connect them to our dream team. And for us, the home run is if we can get someone to a second serve, that is the win. So we have systems in place to help people from where they are, whether they're a complete stranger or whether they've been coming for a couple weeks or a couple months, which no one in Vibrant's been coming for more than a couple months because we've only had 15 weeks so far, 15 Sundays, to being fully integrated into our teams. And every week we're adding people to our teams. Every week we have new people in our growth track. Every week we have second-time guests. Every week we have first-time guests. And every week we're finding new people who are finding our website. And we just kind of see it as that funnel. How do we at the top of the funnel make it so more people know that we're here? It's people that are getting in on our teams. How do we make sure that at every level we've got people making that transition? And who are the people that we're assigning to monitor that taking place?
Yeah, so we've been working with all different types of vendors and even some like marketing people and other people to help us to do this. One of the things I really appreciate about what Brandon is doing is that we're not having to do everything on our own. Like we are leveraging experts, if you will, in different areas to help us get further faster. So I want to share a lot of that. And that's on these coaching calls. That's a lot of what I do is we try stuff. Vibrant Church is kind of a playground, if you will, of various things that we're trying, and then give you some results that we are seeing. So Brandon, one of the first things I want to hit on is we decided that actually you decided that one of the things you want to work on right now is culture and trying to build a culture first. Why don't you unpack that for us? And you even mentioned a culture guide. We took a look at one from VU Church. So talk about culture and what you're thinking about right now.
So for us as a young church, and I think even as we get older as a church, I think culture is everything. Culture is reflected from our understanding of doctrine and scripture and who God made us to be as a local body, and to see that culture of how we do ministry represented in the people that call Vibrant Church home. And I really believe that culture is like a foundation, where right now we're building a culture. So here's a great example. We say in our culture phrases, if leadership if serving is beyond, or if leadership, I'm sorry, let me try this one more time. If serving is beneath you, leadership is beyond you. So if you're not willing to serve first, we're not going to put you in a position of leadership. That the beginning place to have any level of influence within our church is you have to begin by serving first. And if you're too good to pick up trash, if you're too good to even clean the toilet, we're probably not going to put you in a posture of leadership. And we just have these cultural phrases. This is how we do vibrant. And it's just even the question, is this vibrant? Like, this might be good at another church, but like, it might not be us. Or even, how do we take things that we're using from other churches and make it our own? So like right now we're working on growth track because there's some cultural disconnects. Everything we were given was fantastic and great, and it works for them where they're at. And what we're doing is we're just translating some of the cultural pieces to make it our own. But I focus on three things: preaching, building culture, and building leaders. And I think if I do those three things, we'll have a healthy church. If we're equipping people to do the work in the ministry, which is what I believe that our job is as pastors, which is building leaders and building culture and preaching. And I think different seasons require one of those three to be the number one. And for me, my number one right now is culture.
So we saw this culture guide at VU Church. And I remember, Brandon, you actually showed it to me, and we're like, hey, we need to create one of these. I've heard about culture before. I've heard people talk about it. And but this was the first time I actually saw somebody actually like document it. So for me, I'm not a lead pastor. In fact, I volunteer. Like I'm one of the volunteers. I'm a dream teamer at the church. So it's really helpful whenever you can say, here's this document like that you can read through and like learn about our culture. A lot of times I think I've been on staff at churches, and we kind of take for granted that we know what the culture is. We take for granted that we're around it all the time, but other people aren't. And so whenever I saw that from VU, they had a document, it just said like all the culture statements and how it's defined. And it was extremely helpful for me to see that. And we're working on trying to put something like that together. Any thoughts from your perspective about an actual guide?
Yeah, I think if you can't write it down, people aren't going to remember it. And it's hard for us to even remember what it is we're trying to communicate. And the more you put it in front of people, the more likely they're going to remember it. Where I think it's Andy Stanley that says, and until people are annoyed by how many times you've communicated one thing, it hasn't stuck yet. But the moment people are starting to get like, oh my gosh, we're hearing this again, they're finally starting to get it. And especially when you don't have a large staff, or at least for me, we don't have a staff at all that's being paid. It is people who are working 9-to-5 jobs, and vibrant isn't the first thing that's on their mind, but I'm wanting to build culture inside of them.
So we talk a lot about, as far as building a brand, like you have to get clear about who you are, and having a culture, like culture statements. I want to say we have, is it 9, or how many statements do you have?
I think there's 10 now.
Okay. So there's 10. And again, we're a young church. So some of this stuff is evolving, and kind of we're tweaking and kind of, getting it ready for the long haul. But one of the things we need to get clear on is the culture that we're trying to create. From there, we can start to create an experience that's in line with that culture, that clarity that we said that we are. So one of the things that Vibrant Church has done recently is this mystery box idea. And it came from a problem that we saw, where people weren't like giving us info, and we can't do a great follow-up process if we don't have information from first-time guests. So Brandon came and said, hey, what about this mystery box idea? So Brandon, why don't you take us through that process? How did that mystery box come about?
That's great. So up until we launched the mystery box, we were having between 0 to maybe 2 connection cards being turned in a week. And we knew that there were more guests coming. They just weren't giving us their information. So we're like, all right, how do we convince them to turn in their information? And I had a pastor friend of mine encourage me like, hey, it's transactional. You have to buy that information with something. So he told me what they did, which was not what we do. And the idea came up of this idea of the mystery box. And inside the mystery box, so it's just a little cardboard box, but it looks nice. It's got some ribbon on it. and inside is a tumbler. For us, it works well because we're in South Florida. It's hot all the time. We don't have like you don't drink hot coffee year round here. So we're like, a coffee mug doesn't really fit. Tumbler fit for us. We have it wrapped in some really inexpensive stuff on like from Amazon of just like the paper. And then we have a letter from me and my wife just saying, hey, your life is a mystery. And we believe that if Jesus was a part of your story, you could unlock the mystery of your life. And we would love to be the church that helps you unlock the mystery of your life in Jesus. And the call to action in it is to come back next week. So we just communicate during the service, hey, if you're a guest, we'd love to meet you at our New Here tent, where we've got a free gift for you. I believe it costs around maybe $4, maybe $4.50. But what we're getting, so we went from 0 to maybe 2 cards to 8 to 10 cards pretty much every weekend. And this weekend was a holiday weekend, and I think we still had 5 cards get turned in with 130 people at church on Sunday.
So we have some fun with that mystery box too, just kind of poking around at, hey, what's inside of it? You know, if you're new, you don't know what's inside. So that's part of the intrigue as well on a marketing perspective. It's good. We communicate that it's a good thing that you're going to want, like once you get it, but we don't tell them what it is. So just the intrigue of it not being revealed is another little tool that we can use to help people to actually go back there and turn that in. Brandon also stands out by the entry area where these mystery boxes are. And he's there to, shake some hands and answer some questions if people do want to do that. But the boxes are there as well, right where Brandon is standing. So we've seen some good results on that. So the third thing we talk about after getting clear and then creating the experience is attracting people. So recently, Brandon decided that, hey, we should go to a movie night. The city puts on a movie night for young families to come and watch. It was the Grinch movie this time around, and we ended up doing some cool things to serve that community at the event. So Brandon, why don't you take us through the movie night event that we just had probably two weeks ago?
That's great. So our city does a couple big events. I'm part of the Chamber of Commerce, and one of the things they do with the city is they put on these movie nights a couple times a year where they do a big blow up movie and they invite people from the chamber to come out and promote their business to kind of fund the event. But it's a fun family event. And for us, we've got a lot of families that attend our church. So we wanted, this is an obvious yes for us. I think we paid $25 to be in the event itself to the city because of the nonprofit rate. And then we gave away water bottles. We gave away glow-in-the-dark necklaces that we bought off of Amazon. We gave away full-size candy bars at our booth. And then we rented a costume of the Grinch because that was the movie that they were showing. And we set up a photo booth with a Vibrant Church banner in the background just to try to add value to the movie night. No one else was bringing the Grinch. So we show up to the event. Families start showing up, and there's a line of people wanting to get a picture with the Grinch. And now we get hundreds of pictures on people's Facebook and Instagram with Vibrant Church in the background with a picture of the Grinch, which once again is just one more time that we get put in front of other people. And then the mayor invites the Grinch to come on stage and even says, hey, they're having a photo booth over at the Vibrant Church booth. You guys should go get a picture with the Grinch. And they were just grateful that we added value to them. And for us, I think the costume rental was like $125. And it was a really good Grinch costume.
So that was just a great, I thought it was just a great example of, knowing who we are and what we're here to do. And then it was an easy yes. Like there's a bunch of different things that we can be a part of as a church. But because we're focusing on young families, a while back we talked about a persona and having somebody that we're targeting. And the persona for Vibrant Church is Chris. His name is Chris, and Chris Broward is what we call him. We're in Broward County, so we call him Chris Broward, just a made up fictitious avatar. But Chris has kids, and Chris wants a great marriage, and Chris doesn't exactly know how to lead his kids, and we want to help Chris out. So we did this event. It was an attractional thing that we did. We added value as best as we could. And people were very appreciative and came over to the booth, and we just took their cell phone, took a picture with their family, and just added value to the event. And long term, we got a brand impression which was great. It had a big backdrop with vibrant across the back of it. And we help people. So we have a positive thing that we contributed to the lives of the young families. So we're building a brand in the community. We're brand new. We're 4 months old. We're going to fight an uphill battle of helping people to build trust in us enough to where they actually show up for that first Sunday. So we have to be out there. We have to go outwards. We can't just stay back on a Sunday. And this event was a great win for us as a brand. There was probably 200 people at the event. Do you think, Brandon? What do you think?
I think it was quite a bit more than that. There are quite a few people there. They also had, apart from that, they had like a dance going on in the street from some people performing, and then they had a martial arts group. So kids that were involved in things in the community had a chance to perform in front of a crowd. So you had all those families showing up for that as well.
Yeah. So great event for us to be a part of. And I think in the future, that's something that we'll continue to do to serve the community. Let's talk about getting buy-in. So the fourth step in our branding process is getting people to buy in or to opt in, or we've talked about it before. It's the buy now button that's on the website. Like once you find something that you like, you're actually doing people a favor by allowing them to opt in to say, hey, I want to be a part of this. So every week at Vibrant Church, we try to provide that opportunity. Brandon, why don't you talk about the membership class? We call it a growth track, and how we set that up and how that works.
That's great. So the Grow Network, which is a network within the ARC, which is also a free resource for everybody. They've got some great stuff. Is really built on the Church of the Highlands model, which is Birmingham, Alabama. It's right in the middle of the Bible Belt. We are not in the Bible Belt, being in South Florida. So at Church of the Highlands, they have a 4-week class that follows the month. So week 1 is the first Sunday on the month all the way through. And then what they have experienced in the life of their church is it takes on average 18 months to get someone from a first-time guest to finishing their growth track. And it takes on average 9 weeks to get someone from week 1 to graduating growth track where they've hit all 4 weeks. Well, I knew I'm not in the Bible Belt. People don't come to church as often in South Florida as they do in Birmingham. So if it's 9 weeks for them, it's going to be 18 weeks for us, which is way too long. So we had noticed some churches had gone from a 4-week model to a 2-week model. So we do a 2-week kind of a hybrid where it's 2 weeks in a class, and then week 3 is an orientation that's happening with their team on team. And right now within that growth track, we've been running it since day 1. We did it on launch day, and it was a great success. And then from there, we had 3-4 months later, we're in the spot of like, hey, I think there's some cultural gaps that we need to adjust. Not the system, like the system's great, but what we need to do is adjust what's happening within growth track. So here you're seeing some pictures of growth track of people in the room. This was just a few weeks ago, and kind of how it's set up. Most of the people in the room are attending growth track. A few of those people in the room are people who are serving on our teams. And we'll range anywhere from 4 people to what you see, probably 12 people in the room right there at our growth track. And again, it's 2 weeks, and our hope is at the end of it, they join our teams.
So we put a lot of emphasis on growth track. Like it's a big deal. We actually feed people. There's a lunch provided. There's childcare provided. Our tear down team stays extra long to make sure people are through the growth track before we tear down everything. We do start tearing down ahead of time the other parts of the building, but the growth track room is kind of the last thing that we do. It's important. I think Brandon does a great job of just emphasizing how important this is to us. In fact, Brandon teaches this class. So one of the greatest things that he can do to add value on a weekend, well, number 1 is to preach a great message. Number 2 is to lead our growth track, to get new people coming into the class, and to get this right for as long as he can. It might be a day where he has to step out, but for right now, as a young church, like he needs to be doing it, and tweaking it. I think Brandon, I think you're kind of reworking some of it. You're learning some things or reworking some of it. Is that right?
That's right. I like to just learn from many different churches. I heard someone say it really well recently. if you learn something or you take a model or even a series idea from another church, it's like an empty vessel. And what the empty vessel lacks is oil. And what we bring as pastors to the table is we bring oil. We have an anointing on our lives to do the thing that God called us to do. And if we were to take these empty vessels and put the oil that God has put in us in those vessels, some of those vessels work really well inside of our house. So what we do is we take, hey, I like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this from this church, and here's some things that I'm adding that are completely our own. But man, I think that we could learn some things from some other churches that really help identify who we are as a church.
And you have a Caro who's in the class. He's a great. Why don't you talk about Akaro? Why do you have him as part of the facilitators in that class?
It's a great question. Akaro is one of those guys that he's just sticky. He's 6'5" and he's a people person. He's a basketball player, but like you just meet him and you just want to be friends with him. So he's part of the attractional part of Okara. So we'll often put Okara on stage saying, hey, he'll say, meet me in growth track. And we'll have people that will come just because they want to spend a little bit of time with Okara. And then they get in there and it's Okara and me. And he is relationally connecting with people in the room until I get in there because I'm meeting guests at the New Here tent. And then I come into growth track and teach the class. But he's just a relational connect for our team. So there, right there, this picture, that's a picture of 4 women who graduated our growth track. At the end of graduation, what we do is we offer them a wristband that just says live a better story, which is our language. And we give them a wristband as like, hey, this is creating a moment for you. We pray over them and send them. So all 4 of those ladies finished our growth track and all 4 of them have recently joined our teams. So 2 of them are serving in kids ministry. 1 of them is in prayer and 1 is at one of our hospitality like merch tent or merch booths.
Yeah, so I've been a part of several churches, and I've seen how effective this has been, like to have it so readily available for people to come and join. Some churches I've been a part of, like it's once every 6 months or once every 3 months, but by making it every single week where people can opt in, it's moved the needle for us, especially as a young church. We need people to say, yes, I want to be a part of this and get plugged into a team as soon as possible. So, Brandon, before we'll start to wrap things up here with our call, if you guys have some questions, please feel free to get those ready. Maybe submit them in a chat if you do have some questions, or here in just a moment, we'll take a few questions. If you want to unmute yourself too, that's totally fine. But Brandon, can you give us some numbers of like where is Vibrant? You know, I think numbers are super helpful to give perspective to everything we've talked about.
Yeah. So we launched on launch day. We had a little over 40 people that came in from out of town just to help us with that first day. Like some of my family members, we had a church that about an hour and a half away. They showed up with like 11 people to help serve. And then just people that had financially invested that wanted to come and feel a part of it. So including everyone that came on launch day, and there were people from the community that came to support us for launch day, like the grand opening, which really inflates your numbers. We had about 387 people show up to launch day, and ARC tells us that you're going to lose 50% from week 1 to week 2, and that won't be the bottom. And so for us as a church, all we've been trying to do is fight the dip. People who came once, how do we get them to come twice? The people that just came to just check us out for 1 day, they go to another church. They drove an hour to get there. They're not coming back, and that's fine. There you see a picture of one of our startup parties. But so we right now on a normal weekend are between about 150 to 175 people on a normal weekend. And what we're trying to do is get ready for 2 services. The number of services is really dictated by the amount of parking and the size of your room. So if you're in an 800-seat auditorium, you're not talking about 2 services until you probably have about 800 people. For us, our room kind of dictates, and our parking especially dictates. Once we start getting closer to about 250 people, that's what we're going to be thinking about 2 services. So that's our big goal, is to get ready for 2 services, which means we have room to grow by about 60 to 70%. And we're hoping to do that in a year. And that's a big statement of faith.
So it's been great to see. Yeah, it's been great to see different cultures and ethnicities and ages, and all these different types of people come be a part of the church. And it's early, very early in the process, but we're just trying to do several things. One of the challenges that we have right now, in fact, actually, Brandon, let me put it to you this way. Why don't you share what is one of the biggest struggles right now that you're dealing with?
It's a great question. So my focus being culture being number one, I'm trying to build culture at every level. We have people that no one went to Vibrant Church 6 months ago. So everyone has either come from another church culture, which is good, or they haven't come from church culture at all because they've not been churched. So my biggest challenge is infusing the culture without dishonoring the culture that they came from, or it's a big step for someone that hasn't gone to church ever in their life and they start coming to your church to like not just like come to church every week, but like to buy into the way that you do church and the way that you create an experience, because it's the way you feel. So like Vibrant, we do a high five, we don't do a handshake. We don't want handshakes taking place at the front door. We want it to be a high five. For us, a high five causes people to smile, and it's a little leans a little bit younger. So we tell people, hey, if you're on the greeter team, you're not just a greeter. You are literally you're a first impression. They're not going to remember my message in 3 days, but they'll remember the way you made them feel. So we want to give them a high five and communicate value to them. We pick them up with a golf cart to kind of even create that experience. That's all part of our culture. We want to be like a little bit over the top. We do pour over coffees instead of drip coffee, just because it's a little bit over the top. And everyone comments like, wow, their coffee's really, really good. Well, we just have a guy that's passionate about coffee and he loves doing pour overs. And he's just thrilled to show up on Sundays and do pour overs for people and get compliments about how good his coffee tastes.
Yeah, that's really good. I had a couple questions, so we'll open it up to questions right now, and then we'll start to wrap things up. One of the questions is about setup and tear down. Let me see. I've got some photos of our rooms, so I'll see if I can pull those up. But the question was, what is the setup tear down process of us being in a school? What does that look like, and how long does it take?
Great question. So I'll give you our answer and then I'll give you a bigger picture answer. Our answer is it takes us between an hour and 15 to an hour and a half to set it all up. And to break it down, it takes right about an hour to an hour and 10 minutes. We do get to store on site at the church, so we don't have to do trailers, which is a huge blessing. And then how many people? Including kids, and we have kids that show up to help with this. We have between 20 to 25 people with setup, and probably about that many in tear down, and about half of those teams are together. So here you see a great picture of a room. This is a classroom, a teacher's room, and there are the teacher's desks and the school desks right there in the background. So we try to make it feel not like a school classroom and kind of like the environment that we want to create for these kids. Now, the look of the school and the amount of hallway will dictate how much you have to build into it. The amount of equipment you get to install into the school system, which if you let the school system use your sound system, oftentimes they'll let you leave a portion of it set up, which is what we do. And then they have access to use it for their big events, which really helps. But I
So
think a good target is an hour to an hour and a half.
and we try to make things as easy as possible in the setup and tear down. So there's lots of carts, lots of wheels. Brandon does a great job. Like he's in there hands on. Even during the week when we were first starting, like he was kind of figuring out how to best set up a room. And then he would kind of show a group of people like, here's kind of what I've seen about how to set this up faster. He's always been really good at just like helping people that are just, they're showing up at 6:30 in the morning and trying to help them just kind of do this better. One of the things we've noticed too is that there's a great vibe that happens on that setup team at 6:30 in the morning. People are really getting to know each other.
Yeah, it's our best culture, or our best like community connect group, where we have a really rich community. It is the team to be a part of. And a big reason is I empowered a leader in Ocaro to help make that team kind of have that it factor. And I'm there and I have to bring the energy. If I want there to be positive energy in the group, I need to bring it whether I have it or not. Psalms, I think 199, no, that's not right. I don't remember what Psalm it is to make a joyful noise. And the word make literally means to create it. And if I want joy among our team, I need to make joy take place among our teams.
And how many people, one more time, are on the setup teardown team?
20 to 25, and that's just because we have a very large setup. I think kind of the ARC average is between 10 to 15.
Okay,
And we
and
meet in the middle school.
is the school a private school?
It is a public middle school.
So we've gotten a lot of favor from a public middle school that isn't typical, I would say.
And we've really kind of purchased that favor, so to speak. The principal shared their need for a washer and dryer, so we bought them a washer and dryer. We totally redid their teacher's lounge. I think it cost us $2,000 over the summertime, and we put in new appliances. We bought furniture from IKEA, put in an area rug, put in a flat screen TV. We made bought a new table for the teachers to meet at, and we painted the whole room. And the school called it the Vibrant Cafe. There's actually a sign that says Vibrant Cafe, which is just unbelievable favor. But we get text messages from the school. Hey, we've got an event coming up in February. Would you help us put it together on Harriet Tubman? The answer is absolutely. So we serve the school, and then it makes easy asks on our end.
Really good. So we've got one or two more questions. If you have any final questions, let us know. I do want to thank you guys for joining us on the call today. This is Church Brand Guide, where I want to serve you as a virtual communications director. If you're interested in the membership, we're able to provide resources. The pictures that I've shown you today are all actually part of the resources. There's a login area to the website where I'm able to provide a lot of resources for you, such as pictures to just help you do this stuff better, some documents as well. So from week to week, I'll let you know about a topic and then provide a resource to help you as you implement or try to implement some of the things that we're talking about. So Brandon, I did have one more question that came through about Growth Track. So they're saying that since you shortened it to 2 weeks, what do you focus on? What did you cut and what do you focus on?
That's a great question. So week 1 is we talk about the vision and the mission of Vibrant. So we communicate our why, and I tell a little bit of the story of how we ended up planting Vibrant Church. And then I break down our 4 steps, which is to know God, which is we do Sunday services, find freedom, which is connect groups, discover purpose, which is Growth Track, and make a difference, which is Dream Team. And I explain those 4 and why we do those 4 and why we want them involved in those 4. I explain the government and the finances of Vibrant in week 1. And the call to action is we would love for you to become a member of Vibrant Church. And then at the very last thing we do at the end of week 1, this is kind of like the catch for us. Like this is the secret sauce. We set up their personality profile and their gifts test for them to do at home. And then when they come back for week 2, we explain the results of the test and teach them how to interpret it. But the focus of week 2 is culture. What is the culture of Vibrant Church? And what is that? Week 1 is why we do what we do and what we do. Week 2 is all about how we do what we do. So I'm just trying to answer those 3 questions. Why do we do what we do? What are we going to do? And how are we going to do it?
So we've learned, Brandon has mentioned several times that we've learned all this stuff through being part of the ARC network. Brandon has also been to many churches to check them out and to physically go and meet pastors and ask, what would you do differently if you had to do it over again? So we're learning from churches that have been well established for years and decades. We're also learning from churches that are brand new and trying to implement the best that we feel fits our culture and our brand and who we are. So the branding piece just helps us to have a filter to know what is right for us. Because there's a million ideas that we can be doing, and we've seen some amazing things, but not everything's right for us. So it's important to go through the branding process to make sure you know who you are and you know who you serve, because that really determines like what you do. In just a week, we're going to be doing a winter wonderland, and it was just an idea that we decided to serve our community because it's going to help us to do that, to serve the audience that we are called to reach. Brandon, any thoughts on just that idea of knowing who we are?
Yeah, I think it's a key thing for us as pastors. Is it takes a lot of churches to reach a city, and you need to know who God made you to be and what is the grace on your house, and to be great with who you are. So for me, um, I fit really well in the area that we live in, which is a middle class, to like a higher middle class to lower upper class. Like, it's not the wealthiest community in the area at all. It's a step or two down from there. It's not the poorer areas. Um, and that's kind of the family that I kind of grew up in, the environments that I've done church in. So we designed church around meeting the needs of those people. So for me as a pastor, this Sunday, I actually did wear a sport coat, but underneath it, I had a long t-shirt on and had ripped pants, and tennis shoes. So it's the culture of vibrant. There's not a right way to dress on Sunday. You just need to own who you are. So you could have like a Lakeland, or Lakewood church, who they're going to dress up in suits and ties, and that's the culture they're in. And they're in an upper class community, and it fits the culture that they're in. So I think it's the ability to take the culture of your church, own the culture of your church, and communicate that culture to the community that God's called you to reach.
Awesome. Two final quick ones. This one's quick. Highlands. Pastor Chris. Hey, Pastor Chris. Great to give you a shout out here. He's asking, are you still using the Highlands book?
Yes, I combined weeks 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 together to make the 2 classes.
And then another question from Pam Williams in Chicago. Pam's asking, spiritual profile, are you using like some software, or is there any particular one that you're using for that?
It's a great question. We are using the Highlands Growth Track model, and they've got the personality and the profile test right in there. It is a simple version of the DISC test, and then it's a spiritual gifts test that include all of the spiritual gifts from 1 Corinthians. So it's got, I think, 19 different spiritual gifts in there, and we just use theirs. We set it up, and then they take the test at home, and then they bring it back.
Awesome. All right, guys, I'd like to wrap this up in a decent amount of time. Usually I ask for about 30 minutes, and with the Q&A, we go a little bit over. So I want to make sure that we honor your time so that you do come back when we do these calls. So, hey, Brandon, one final question. I know we've got Pam on the call. They're kind of relaunching some things that they're doing. Pastor Stan's on the call. He's relaunching some. He's actually moving from one building to another building. What is maybe one thing that you would say, hey, make sure you do this or think about this as they transition into like another phase?
It's a great question. I have to answer with 2 answers, if that's okay. Number 1 is, remember, it's a spiritual battle, that it's all a spiritual battle. And at the end of the day, it's a spiritual battle. It is light and darkness waging war in your city, and we are called to wage in war, and we do that in prayer, and the victory is already in Jesus. So I'm not talking works oriented. I'm just saying, like, be a praying people. Number 2 is know who you are and who you aren't, both as a pastor and as a church, and really be okay with what that is. So I am not very creative, so I need highly creative people around me that communicate the creativity of God. And that's not who I am. What I am really good at is I'm really good at leadership and systems. So I bring my gifts to the table and recognize my weaknesses and pray that God sends the people that can complement the things that I don't have, that need to be present in his body. And as a church, we're not an upper class church, and people that come from that culture might not call Vibrant home, and that's really okay. You might not see a Bentley and a Maserati in our parking lot at the middle school, because that's just not who we are.
There is a church down the street that does a really good job. I've been there, and they do have the Maserati in the parking lot. So, and we're partnering with them. So that's awesome. But yeah, I really appreciate that about Brandon as well. Just allowing people to be strong in their areas of strength. I think it's been an awesome uh, way to just serve under Brandon and serve the community, because he's able to really know who he is and allow us to do what we're good at. So with that, let's wrap it up for today. Thanks guys for joining us on this call. Hopefully this helps to give you a case study. We talk a lot about theories and different techniques. One thing I do want to maybe close out with is that we do talk a lot about techniques and marketing strategies and tactics. But like Brandon said, it's spiritual, right? It's a spiritual thing that we do. So I think one of the things that Brandon does really well too is just making sure that even though we're doing all this stuff, trying, giveaways and all these different things, there's a culture of prayer that is there. Like we do fasting and all that stuff, and it's so important in the growth, because we can only do so much, and then God has to just do the rest of it. So thanks guys for joining us today and for being part of this. That's kind of the heart of what we're doing as well, is we're sharing tactics, but we're also praying for you guys and hoping for the best for your churches. All right, I will see you guys next time. Take care. Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. If anyone wants to stay longer on the call, I could answer. I saw there's a couple other questions that came in.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good to keep it open. So if you guys need to bail, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, Brandon, why don't you pick whichever one you want to go out next? Let's keep going.
So I think it's Simon asked, how would you do the exchange of a Connect card with a mystery box in a digital way? That has been one of the challenges we ran into. Is it's hard to know whether that happened or not. So we have the software called Text in Church that has an online digital connection card that I have moved away from using, because I want to physically touch them and say hi to them, because studies are showing if there can be a little bit of that personal connection, they're a lot more likely to become a second-time guest than just a first-time guest. So we've kind of gone away from just doing it digitally. However, midweek, all of the follow-up is done digitally. So today, actually, it's late in the week for me to typically do it, but I send out a personalized video to anyone who came for the first time. That's about 45 seconds long. Hey, Michael, thanks so much for coming to Vibrant. I hope it was a great experience for you. I'd love to see you this next Sunday. Right after the service, we have Growth Track. It's really the front door of our church, and you get to learn a bunch about yourself. I'd love to see you there. Have a great week. Basically, it's just a little bit longer version of that. We're going to send them a text message also later in the week, just inviting them back to church. And then with Text in Church, we have an algorithm created over about a 4-week period that once we enter their information, they're getting a text message from a local number that they can reply to, and we can communicate to the replies. That's really great, and that's really, really good. Do you meet visitors in a defined room in an open space? Again, we're in South Florida, so outside is fantastic. We have a tent outside with a big flag in front of it that says "New Here, Start Here," because we're limited in our lobby space. Our lobby is already overran, and we didn't feel like the lobby was the great place to make that happen. So our space works well outside. If you've got a larger lobby, I think it fits better in a lobby. It just doesn't fit for us physically in the room. But I think having a defined space helps guests know where to go. Hey, there's a tent right outside of the school, right after the service. I would love to meet you there personally and give you your mystery box, which, by the way, this is our mystery box. This is what it looks like. The only thing it's missing is a ribbon. So we put a black ribbon on top of it. The inside has the letter, which is faced up, from my wife and I, and it's signed with Vibrant Church on the back. There's the tissue paper on the inside, and then our tumbler on the inside. So that's our mystery box. What is your salvation intake process / altar call? That's a great question. So our culture is this. We believe that the moment of salvation is something that is very private. The moment of baptism is the moment that you go public. So we try to honor the fact that for someone taking that first step, it's very intimidating. However, we want to follow up with them. So what we do at the end of every service is I will lead people to an opportunity to respond to the gospel, and we have them raise their hands. But before they raise their hands, I tell them what we're going to ask them. Hey, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, and then I'm going to lead everybody in the room in the prayer. So everybody's praying. And then I'm going to ask you, everyone in the room, again, to pull out your phone so no one feels embarrassed. And I would love for you to text the word hope to the number behind me on the screen. And when you text in hope, you're going to get some emails and some text messages just encouraging you in the journey and pointing you to some next steps. And Text in Church has that created that we were able to edit and make it our own culture, in our own language. And we even took some steps out and added some steps, which was really, really great. And we just enter it. So if they text it, they get a response saying, hey, what's your name and what's your phone number? And then the algorithm begins in that follow-up process. And then we have a guy in our team that this is just his heart is new believers. So he will actually call them on the phone that week and just say, hey, how you doing? Is there anything I can do to pray with you? And the goal is that he just prays with them over the phone and invites them to come back this next week. But in our text messages and our emails, we're really pointing them to baptism and a connect group.
Altar call too. We have a prayer team, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right after the service, we have, if anyone needs prayer, we put it on the sidewall, on the opposite sidewall where people exit. So if I'm standing on the stage, people are exiting to my right, and the prayer team is on the left. Again, we're trying to make it so it's as least invasive as possible, where we create a sense of a safe place for them to go and pray. And we have a line every week at our prayer team.
Hey, Chris, I see you on the call. We haven't connected for a little bit, man. How's it going out there? How are you doing?
It's going great. It's going great. We're getting ready for Christmas, and we've been doing a real big push, making that a big day for us. And we're excited. We're growing. Just kind of still learning how to redo church, because I've taken over the church. Our church has been in existence for about 35 years, and so there's some things that we're kind of structurally doing differently. But I'm excited, and I really appreciate all of your helps and your support.
That's awesome. Yeah, we met a little while ago, over a year ago, and we helped you with a rebrand logo. But I think it kind of went beyond in some other areas of like,
yeah,
it's not just a logo. You're trying to change a whole culture.
Yeah.
For us, starting a new church that's fresh, that we don't have that issue, but for you, it's a different challenge.
Part of me kind of wished that I had started from scratch. It feels a little tough, but God put us in positions, and we're built for where He put us. So I'm just excited about where we're going. And I'm telling you, we've changed a lot. We've done a lot. We've grown, and there's momentum here. There's momentum, and I think, to be honest, I think that really started from my conversation with you, Brandon, and how. It was just encouraging, but then you was able to allow me to kind of see some things that I had to do personally, so it wasn't really about the church so much, but it was really what I had to do personally. Once I started dealing with me and how to lead and what I needed to do, it kind of filtered out throughout the rest of the church. So I don't know if that helps anybody.
Proud of you, buddy. Good job.
Appreciate you.
Awesome. Any final questions from anybody before we close it out for today? Well, hey, thanks everyone for hanging on, and Brandon, thanks for sticking around and doing some extra questions. Really appreciate it. We'll have Brandon on from time to time too, just to keep. I think it's kind of cool to see the process. We're hopeful and in prayer and faith that things are gonna. We're gonna really make a difference in this community. We're doing everything we possibly can, and we're praying. Like it all depends on God as well. And so we want to share that just as a resource for you. So from time to time, we'll have Brandon on just to kind of give us the pastoral side of it, the updates, and get that perspective. All right, guys, thanks again for joining us on the call. I will see you next time. Take care.